Time is 5 o'clock. Good evening and welcome to the September 2023 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thank you all for joining us in person at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center and remotely via WebEx. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. With me in person tonight are my fellow board members, Amanda Bogner, Mike Kavanaugh, Matt Core, Craig Moody, and Mary Spurgeon. Director Sarah Howard and Director Jean Smolhoff notified me ahead of time that they were unable to attend the meeting this evening. We also have President and CEO Javier Fernandez, Troy Meyerson with the Fraser Stryker Law Firm, our general counsel, and members of our board meeting support staff. OPPD's executive leadership team and subject matter experts are also participating in today's meeting in person and via WebEx. Additionally, we currently have one member of the public at the Civic Center and 8 attendees online consisting of OPPD employees and members of the public. As a reminder to board members, executive leadership team, and OPPD staff, please mute your microphones and your cell phones to reduce background noise. To members of the public, thank you for attending. You are in listen-only mode. If you have any technology questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx to communicate with the event host. If you're disconnected from the WebEx conference, we ask that you rejoin in the same manner as when you originally joined. I will now ask a member of OPPD's physical security team to provide the safety briefing for our location and for Javier Fernandez to provide other safety reminders.
Good evening, welcome. As always, we'll start with a quick safety briefing. As we've gone over in the past, we do have emergency exits on either side of the room. Those lead to stairwells. In the event of any weather event, we will use those stairwells and go down into the garage area where we will take shelter. If we have to evacuate, those same stairwells will be used and we'll go right outside of the building itself. There's fire suppression, first aid equipment at both of those exits, and then we have additional first aid equipment accessible to us in the back of the room. What I would remind everybody is the quickest way to get to the hospital is a trip or fall. So please be conscious of any type of environmental concerns that you might have. If there is anyone that needs help, please let us know and we'll try to get help to you as quickly as possible. And then we will also follow the directions of the deputies that are in attendance for any other emergencies. I will say the weather is great right now, but we are getting close to wintertime. So we're going to start talking about some bad weather when it comes to that, icy and snowy roads. Fingers crossed, hopefully that won't happen anytime soon, but I do want to bring attention to that as it is coming down the line. So thank you and have a great meeting this evening.
Thank you, Josh. And I'm going to try to ignore a little bit of that notice that the weather is changing because I'm really enjoying the weather now in September, but thank you for the reminder. On the psychological safety aspect of things, we talked on Tuesday about a culture of curiosity, and I mentioned the very healthy conversation we had at a board workshop we had a few weeks ago, and one of the comments that was made about at OPPD, it's not uncommon to hear during a discussion or a meeting the phrase "help me understand," and I think that's a very important piece of that culture of curiosity, where we're asking questions, and it's not always to challenge necessarily a point of view, but just and help me understand. Help me expand the context that the people are bringing in topics. So that's a critical aspect, I think, to build trust and have a psychologically safe environment. We practice this in our power plants, in our service centers, and certainly here in the office with as many meetings that we have. That culture of curiosity needs to be a critical element of our culture. Next slide, please. The safety focus for September, as I mentioned on Tuesday, slowing down can really make a difference in our safety. As we're coming back into school sessions and a lot of the other tasks and routines that we have, I think slowing down is something that we're focused on September, making sure that we're taking a deep breath and slowing down before we begin any task, any big job. This is something that our teams do. We always have a safety briefing at the beginning of every job. No matter how many times we've been at that place or we've performed the same action, it's always important for us to stop, slow down, talk about what we're going to do, all of these so that we can all go home safe to our loved ones. We continue to emphasize the importance of being attentive when we're driving, and that for most of us, the most dangerous activity that we all perform on a daily basis is getting behind the wheel. And with cell phones, whether you're using it or someone else on the lane next to you is using it, it's a distraction that can be fatal sometimes. So I urge all of us here in the room and OPP employees to always stay alert when we're behind the wheels and pay attention to your conditions. On that same note, countering complacency, very, very, very important. We oftentimes perform the same job, in the same place, and we can become complacent. And I think that being alert and countering complacency is incredibly important, not only for safety, but I would say for everything else we do at OPPD. Challenging the notion of, well, this is how we've always done things. Well, are there better ways? Are there safer ways to do things? And having that culture of curiosity comes into play really well here. And with that, I conclude my safety briefing.
Great, thanks very much. Now let's run through our guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on oppd.com. This meeting is being recorded in person with WebEx conferencing, and this meeting is being conducted in person and with WebEx conferencing and is being recorded. Our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are part of the official public record. After the introduction of action items, board members will ask clarifying questions from staff, and then I will ask for public comment. After public comment, the board will conduct its discussion of the matter and then vote. Also, before we adjourn, there will be an opportunity to comment on any other matters of district business. We'll take comments in the room first and then via WebEx. For in-person attendees, if you wish to make a comment, please line up behind the microphone in the middle of the room. Please state your name, address, and the name of any organization or person you represent. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending. To assist you, we will use the timer that is located in the room. Ms. Lane will signal when you have 30 seconds remaining, as well as when your time is up. If you have written materials, please deliver them to the OPPD representatives in the room. Next, we will review the 2 options for WebEx attendees to notify us. Option 1, which is being displayed now, involves sending the meeting technology host a message using the chat feature, simply stating that you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chair Williams. For those of you who have joined us using a computer or WebEx mobile app, you will find a button in your WebEx interface to open the chat panel. Once opened, you may send your message to the meeting technology host. Requests to provide comments will be relayed to Chair Williams for recognition during the public comments section.
Option 2, which is being displayed now, involves the hand raise feature.
WebEx allows attendees to virtually raise their hand. You may use this feature to indicate to OPPD that you wish to be recognized to provide comments. The hand raise button can be found in the lower control bar of WebEx. After you have provided your comments, please press the hand raise button again to virtually lower your hand. And for those who have joined the meeting using a telephone, WebEx has a hand raise feature that is activated by pressing *3 to raise and lower your hand. When we see your hand raised, we will acknowledge you by referencing a portion of your phone number. For example, caller with a phone number beginning in 402-123. If you wish to provide comments when recognized, please wait a brief moment to be unmuted and begin speaking. At this time, if you would like to try using the hand raise feature, please do so as a test.
I'll allow plenty of time at each opportunity for public comment for members of the public to provide notification via WebEx. When I call out a member of the public to speak, our meeting technology host will unmute your microphone. Before commencing your comments, I suggest you first affirm that we can hear you. Please state your name and address, and state the name and address of the name of any organization or person you are representing. Organizations should choose 1 representative to speak on their behalf. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending at the discretion of the board. To assist you, we will display a timer on the WebEx screen to ensure each member of the public receives a consistent amount of time. Ms. Lane will signal when you have 30 seconds remaining, as well as when time is up. For all attendees, please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or an officer of the district. The board values and welcomes civil, respectful, clear, and concise communication from the public. During public comments, speakers should refrain from repetitious, profane, or irrelevant comments. Speakers shall refrain from polling the board, as such vote is not on the agenda and is prohibited by law. If you have written materials, please email them to corporatesecretary@oppd.com, and they will be received on our behalf. For those at the Omaha Douglas Civic Center, please hand your materials to Ms. Lane. In summary, we will take in-room comments first, then WebEx comments, and then have a last call. Ms. Lane, will you please take the roll call?
Director Bogner? Here. Director Kavanaugh?
Here.
Director Corr?
Here.
Director Howard? Director Molhoff? Director Moody?
Here.
Director Spurgeon?
Here.
Director Williams?
Here.
Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald, OPPD outlets newsletter, oppd.com, and social media, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on September 15, 2023. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available for inspection on oppd.com and in this meeting room. The consent agenda items are as follows. Item 6, approval of the July 2023 financial report, August 2023 meeting minutes, and the September 21, 2023 agenda. Item 7, SD10 ethics monitoring report, resolution number 6584. Item 8, 2024 board meeting schedule, resolution number 6585. Item 9, acquisition of land rights for utility operations infrastructure projects, resolution number 6586. Item 10, revisions to rate rider schedules number 467, 467H, and 467L, resolution number 6587. Item 11, SD9, integrated system planning monitoring report, resolution number 6588. Item 12, RFP 6054, substation foundation, ductline, and miscellaneous work, resolution number 6589. Item 13, NC1 air preheater basket and seal replacement, labor contract award, resolution number 6590. Item 14, N05 air preheater basket and seal replacement, labor contract award, resolution number 6591. Item 15, NC1 HCV 15 installation, labor contract award, resolution number 6592. Item 16, NC1 DCS modular power system replacement project, engineer certification, resolution number 6593. And item 17, Jones Street Station Unit 2, repair parts and services, engineer certification, resolution number 6594.
There are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items. I need a motion and a second to approve these items.
So moved.
Second?
We discussed these action items at the all-committee meeting on Tuesday, September 19th. Do any members of the public in the room have comments on these consent agenda items? If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium in the center of the room.
David Begley, 4611 South 96th Street. I'm speaking with respect to item 10 of your rider with regard to what you call demand response. This was a slide in your committee meeting where management states the staff states the problem as OPPD is experiencing unprecedented growth. And so therefore, there is a growing need for a successful demand response program. I would submit to you that the problem is not demand, it's supply. And what you have created here is unreliable, non-baseload energy. And that's why you have to somehow come up with some way to cut response, which is really astounding when you think about it. You know, I've told you many times, your business is low cost and reliability, and you failed in that. Here is a recent press release from a Bitcoin miner in Texas where, and here's another point I'd like to raise with you. How come OPPD doesn't have any Bitcoin miners? I thought you had such low rates. I know there's a lot of Bitcoin miners in Iceland and the Pacific Northwest. Well, here's some in Texas. And when the Texas grid ran out of power again because they have too much unreliable solar and wind, so they had to go to one of their customers, this company called Riot Platforms, which is a Bitcoin miner, and pay them 31 million bucks to turn off the power. Now, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy. So again, you know, you as a board have gone down this path of foolishness of too much unreliable, intermittent, and expensive solar and wind, when you should have a steady baseline power source, which you had until Fort Calhoun Station was shut down. Thank you.
Are there any other comments in the room about the consent agenda items? Seeing none, do we have any members of the public on WebEx who have a comment about the consent agenda items?
Mr. David Corbin.
David, when you're ready, please check the microphone for us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to listen in on the committee meeting this month, and I'm wondering about SD9. It was my understanding that SD9 was supposed to address some of the concerns that various groups had about the near-term generation. And I don't know if you can answer this now or if this is something you can send me later as to how it might address energy efficiency, for example, and accessing federal dollars. Thank you.
We did talk about the SD9 monitoring report on Tuesday during the committee meeting. It was highlighted that the monitoring report reflects the policy that was in place over the last year, and that recent updates, specifically as you highlighted, related to the near-term generation resolution and associated timelines and milestones, were not reflected in the report this year, but will be reflected in the future. You also asked about energy efficiency. That was not specific. There was some discussion about that on Tuesday, so I'd refer you to that meeting. But I don't know if there's a more specific answer to your question. I think future monitoring reports will have more information about energy efficiency, probably even next month during SD7. So I refer you to the video from Tuesday for any other questions. Are there any other comments online about the consent agenda items?
No more comments.
Great, thank you. Ms. Lane, will you please call the roll?
Director Bogner,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Core,
Yes.
Director Howard, absent. Director Mulhoff, absent. Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
The first board discussion action item is number 18, Corporate Officer Performance Reviews and Compensation Adjustments, Resolution number 6595. Whereas the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District is required by law to establish the compensation of the district's corporate officers, and whereas for the sake of administrative efficiency, the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District has decided to review and adjust compensation for corporate officers effective June 4 of 2023, rather than on each officer's employment anniversary date, and plans to continue this practice in future years. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the compensation adjustments for the OPPD Vice Presidents Kathleen W. Brown, Tim D. McAravey, Kevin S. McCormick, Lisa A. Olson, Mikkel V. Purnell, Scott M. Foch, Bradley R. Underwood, Jeffrey M. Bishop, and Troy R. Vi, as set forth on Exhibit A attached hereto, be and hereby is approved.
So moved.
Second.
All right. So let me, I'll tee this up for our discussion. So last year in 2022, we streamlined our vice president compensation adjustment process to make adjustments to all executive leadership salaries at one time. And so that's why we have one motion here that includes everyone. I will acknowledge that Cliff Fleener is absent from this list as he joined the organization earlier this year and has yet to complete his first year of service. So starting in May, we received a executive compensation analysis report from a third party, Lockton Companies. This report helps us compare executive compensation at OPPD to peer utilities in the United States of comparable revenue size and employee size. So one of the important things that this report does is it takes the cash compensation that we offer our executives, and it's only base pay at OPPD, and it tries to assimilate and align a total compensation package that is offered at other similar organizations. So if other organizations have salary plus bonus structure, it's trying to value and compare across that. So this is the report that we rely on to establish our midpoint values. And so you'll see here that we are uh, proposing market adjustments for our CFO, our Chief Operating Officer, our Vice President of Human Capital, and our Vice President of Systems Transformation. And so that is really intended to bring those salaries in line with what we found, what the findings were of that report. And then beyond that, Javier has offered up the merit changes based on each executive's performance over the last year. So compensation outlined here reflects our intent to retain the exceptional talent that is on our executive leadership team. Turnover is very hard, it's expensive, and it's time consuming. And given the amount of work ahead of us, we need all hands on deck, and we need all of these very capable hands on deck at this moment. So with that, Director Williams, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you. At this time, do any directors have any technical or clarification questions from staff as per our process? Nope, that checks out. Do any members of the public in the room have a comment on this action item? If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium.
David Bagley, customer owner, 4611 South 96th Street. I have no problem whatsoever with the pay to the vice presidents. I'm sure your third-party firm ran all the numbers. But what I do submit is that OPPD is behind the times in terms of incentivizing your employees. You know, last month I gave you that quote from Charlie Munger, which was something to the effect, show me the incentive system and I'll show you the result. And I think you've got your merit bonus or whatever you want to call it. But I think you need an incentive program. I mean, you've got this fabulous goal of net zero by 2050. You need to get fired up and give your people some money incentive to reach that fabulous goal. And so I'll inform you of what other private utilities are doing. I'm going to reference Rebecca Kujwa, who's the CEO and president of NextEra. NextEra is the company, in case you don't know, wants to build your project there in Cass County. Her compensation, 12% base salary, set 18% an additional incentive if she hits the goals the board sets for her. And then 70% is long-term equity. It's a private company. Well, it's private, but it's on the New York Stock Exchange. And so the bulk of her compensation is paid in stock, which of course gets a lower tax rate. So her base salary, and I understand this is a huge company, much, much bigger than OPPD. Her base salary was $1 million. Her annual incentive was $2 million. So cash, she got $3 million, and the other 70% was in stock. So I'm just trying to help out. You know, if the board wants to reach its goal of net zero by 2050, you really ought to set some kind of an incentive plan so your vice presidents reach your goal. Thank you.
Do any other members of the public in the room have comments? Seeing none, do we have comments online?
No comments online.
Okay. Do we have any comments from directors? Director Moody.
Retention, retention, retention. Director Wagner said it. I'll echo that. We in my view, have a fantastic team that we've assembled, and that's kudos to you. My philosophy has always been, our job is to really work with the CEO, but it's the CEO's job to assemble that team. The law requires that we approve salaries, so we'll do it. And in this case, I'm extraordinarily happy to do so. Also, as Director Bogner said, we have a heavy lift in front of us. So turnover, especially at a senior level, is extraordinarily problematic, and it's something that we should continue to work to avoid. And I would also add and conclude by saying salary is but one arrow in that quiver. There are a lot of other things that are important to this fantastic group of people to ensure that they're engaged and energized and doing the work that we need to do. So fully support this vote. Thank you.
Yeah, Director Kavanaugh.
Thank you. My comments include not only this resolution, but also the next one that pertains to CEO Fernandez's salary as well. This resolution obviously shows that we're happy and appreciate and recognize the hard work and competence that our senior staff performs under. We appreciate it very much. And along with recognizing that is we need to reward them with appropriate compensation. And that sounds like a broken record. Yeah, there is concerns about retention. We understand that sometimes we've hired folks away from other employers. Well, we're not naive enough to realize that, hey, it could happen to us too. And hopefully this will help keep the folks here. We're happy with the staff. We appreciate it very much, and I support this resolution, and as well as the next one.
Great, thank you. Director Molhoff was not able to be here in person, and per our policy, she is not going to take a vote on the item, but I do believe she has comments and she is available online. So Director Molhoff, do you have comments on this item?
I do, and thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Yes, I realize that I'm unable to vote, but I really wanted to express my approval of the compensation adjustments. Individually and as a team, these vice presidents have met all the challenges that have presented over the past year. And it's important that OPPD retain the talented leaders that we have for future work. I also wanted to thank each of you for everything you do to make OPPD successful. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I would echo what the other directors have said. I appreciate all of the work that our executives put into this organization, and we've talked about it at a number of meetings recently, but there have been back-to-back challenges on successive years, and this year has been no different. So again, I appreciate everything that everyone has done, and I think the annual review and approval of the compensation increase is a demonstration by the board of that appreciation for the work that our executives put in. As has been discussed in the past, we do internal evaluations of the rate of increase of executive compensation relative to the increases for employees across the organization. And we also evaluate the ratio of compensation for the executives compared to the average employees within the organization. That has been discussed in the past, and I think the board feels that it is in line with our objectives within the organization. So thank you all for the excellent work that you provided over the course of the last year. We appreciate it. We appreciate the understanding and the slight shift in timeline for this review and approval of the performance and the compensation increases. And we look forward to great ongoing performance from all of you into the future. With that, Ms. Lane, will you please call the roll on this item?
Director Bogner,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Corr,
Yes.
Director Howard, absent, Director Molhoff, absent, Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 6595 passes 6-0. Our second board discussion action item is item 19, CEO Performance Review and Compensation Adjustment, Resolution number 6596. Whereas the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District is required by law to establish the compensation of the district's corporate officers, and whereas the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District is reviewing and adjusting compensation for the President and Chief Executive Officer effective June 4th, 2023, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District That the compensation adjustment for L. Javier Fernandez, as set forth on Exhibit B attached hereto, be and hereby is approved.
So move.
Second?
Okay, so this is another governance committee item. So as the board of the directors, this is one of our most important roles, is to hire, evaluate, and when necessary, discharge the CEO of the organization. And so we take this process very seriously. It started earlier this year. The evaluation process began with the Lockton report that I referred to on the last item to understand the compensation package that we, how we compensate the CEO compared to how similar organizations do. We also prepare an evaluation survey that's framed around the strategic directives. And we have robust discussion both during pre-committee governance meetings as well as our closed session all-committee meeting. Yesterday, Eric and I met with Javier to provide feedback from our conversation on, from the closed session conversation on Tuesday. And all in, Javier is doing a fantastic job as the leader of this organization. He consistently relies on his strategic thinking strength and commitment to transparency as he leads the organization through this very dynamic time, and his talents there are very appreciated. There was consensus during our all-committee meeting that Javier is exactly the right person for OPPD at this time, and we appreciate your service. So I did mention the Lockton report, and again, I'll reiterate here that what we provide Javier is base pay and base pay only, but we are in market that other organizations similar to ours have many more mechanisms at hand that they can use to compensate their executive officer. And similar to, you know, similar to the discussion with the VPs, we are recommending a market adjustment because the Lockton report demonstrated that we are falling behind on CEO pay. And then we are also offering up a merit percentage as well. At this time, I'll turn it back over to you, Director Williams.
Committee directors have clarification questions? Seeing none. Do any members of the public in the room have a comment on this action item? So you can come to the podium. Seeing none. Do any members of the public online have comments on this action item?
No comments online.
Thank you. Do any directors have additional comments about this action item?
Sure, I'll hop in. As Director Bogner said, you're the right person at the right time. And I wanted to just take a moment to express some gratitude for all of the work that you do. We see just how difficult it is. We see your commitment and your passion for it. And again, compensation is just but one way in which we want to express some gratitude and appreciation for you. And I'll say that we also want to continue to find any another way to support you as you lead this organization through this big transformation. So thank you.
Similar to the last item, I believe Director Molhoff would like to offer comments.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that I also concur with the recommended compensation for CEO Fernandez. In this time of unprecedented change and growth, Javier, you have demonstrated the leadership and skill in navigating not only local, but federal, global, and state challenges. The team that you've built here will continue to serve the district now and in the future, and we thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, Director Molhoff. I would also echo the comments of my colleagues on the board in expressing significant appreciation to CEO Fernandez for your work over the last year. I agree that the compensation increase is both our demonstration of support for you and your ongoing leadership and for the work that you have completed within the last year. I think the compensation increase is warranted based on that work and also is in line with our expectations for the organization relative to the other employees and the other executives. And I guess I would just echo that it was my significant pleasure to join Director Bogner in our discussion yesterday about the performance over the last year and looking forward toward expectations for the future. I really appreciate everything you do. I appreciate the opportunity to work so closely with you, and I'm looking forward to continued success in the future. So thanks very much for everything. With that, Ms. Lane, will you please call the roll?
Director Bogner,
Yes.
Director Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Director Corr,
Yes.
Director Howard, absent, Director Mulhoff, absent, Director Moody,
Yes.
Director Spurgeon,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 6596 passes 6-0.
And with that, the next item on our agenda today is the President's report. President and CEO Javier Fernandez.
Thank you, Chair Williams. Thank you. It is my pleasure to provide the report, and thank you so much for the remarks. It means a lot to me personally, and I know the team too. Let's talk a little bit about baseload generation. August, as usually is, it's obviously a very hot month, and as a summer peaking utility, it's one of the most important months for the utility. It's not the only one, but probably the one that we see the highest use of electricity. Our baseload generation was busy, but not without challenges. You can see the capacity factor for Nebraska City Unit 1 was 60%. That unit was available most of the month. There were a few days when the unit had to be taken offline to resolve an air fan motor that needed to be replaced. I want to commend the teams at Nebraska City. They completed this work. They brought the unit back online in record time. We were expecting that unit to be offline for approximately 3 days, and it was offline for maybe a day or so. And the team just did a fantastic job. And it was important because it was during the hottest week that we experienced in the service territory. Nebraska City Unit 2 had a capacity factor of 34%. It was online the first half of August, but then we had to limit it due to a degraded piece of equipment. Repairs were eventually completed during the unit outage between August 13th to the 24th. It came back online on the week that we had the highest temperature, so that was very appreciated also by everyone in the organization, all the dedicated team members who brought that unit back on. North Omaha Units 4 and 5 were available basically the entire month. Their capacity factor was 68% and 63%, as you can see here on the screen in front of you. Next slide, please. Balancing generation, this was really interesting, and these numbers are significantly higher than what we typically see in other months. This is a reflection of two factors. One, as I just described, our baseload generation in Nebraska City Unit 1 and 2 was not available all year round, so we had to supplement a lot of that power with our balancing generation. And also, as I'm going to talk about in a few slides, the record heat levels, the record peak loads that we experienced in OPPD and across the region called for every single available unit to be turned online and help not only OPPD but the Southwest Power Pool maintain the system online. And so that explains the higher than usual capacity factors that you can see here in Cass County of 22%, Jones Street of 4%, Sarpy County capacity factor combined of all 5 units of 10%. And then individually, we had all 3 units in North Omaha on simultaneously. And that, again, just as a reflection of the need we had in the system, as you can see on the capacity factor on the screen. I also would like to call out all of the operators. So not only fixing units, as I mentioned in the previous slide, is critical, but operating these units all simultaneously takes a ton of people. And we had operators working on these units 24/7, and it was very long shifts of time, always making sure that we are observing fatigue and not incurring into any safety issues. But our operators did a fantastic job for the region, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank them all. Next slide, please. Our renewable portfolio, which mostly consists of wind energy, it contributed 22.4% of OPPD's retail energy sales, with a capacity factor of renewables of 39%. We, as a reminder, we do have a community solar project, and that capacity factor was 28.5%. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is probably the most relevant part of my president's report this month, and that is we established a new peak load record. And in fact, we would have established several new peak load records because the week of August 21st, every single day, we experienced a load that was higher than last year's peak. It happened to be that the first day of that week on August 21st was the highest, but had it not been that day, every subsequent day of that week, we would have established a new peak load. 2,789 megawatts at 5 p.m. on August 21st. That is an increase of 4.4% of the previous record that was established a few months ago this year, but most importantly, an almost 10% increase from a year ago. 10% increase. That is, again, not surprising. We've talked about the increase in load. We talked about the near-term generation resolution the board approved last month. This is very much in line with the growth that we're seeing in the region. A lot more megawatts being used and a lot higher temperatures. I would like to note also, and maybe we'll have our weather report later on, the temperatures overnight didn't cool down as usual. So that was another very interesting factor in here that really put our system at risk, and it tested our system because homes were not able to cool down overnight as much as they usually do. So the need for air conditioning was significantly higher, and that led us to this new peak load. Just as a point of reference, this increase in 1 year of almost 10%, the comparison here is if you look at the bottom of the slide, in the decade between 2011 and 2021, the annual average increase of load would have been 0.12%. So what we experienced a few weeks ago was almost 100 times higher, greater, faster load growth that we have experienced in the decade from between 2011 and 2021, just unprecedented. Now, on the other hand, and you can see this on the square on the right, lower right-hand corner, I want to take an opportunity to thank all of our customers. We have many, many customers who sign up for our thermostat programs. Maybe a comment of clarification to one of the comments made by the public earlier. We've had these programs for many, many years. These are not new programs that we've established to address this issue today. This is something that we've established over a decade ago. We have residential customers in their own homes working with us, and they work with us when we need them to increase the temperature in their thermostat by a few degrees, and that helps us lower the air conditioning load at the time when we need it the most. The aggregate demand reduction we experienced from residential customers, mostly under the thermostat program, was about 81 megawatts. In other words, our peak load would have been 81 megawatts higher had we not had the response we got from our residential and commercial customers. Further, in addition to the thermostat program, we have larger industrial commercial customers. We discussed this at the all committees meeting, and the board just approved a resolution on their consent agenda to update our 467 rate rider. Very happy to report that through that rate rider structure, we were able to get customers to help us reduce their load, their peak load, by an additional 27 megawatts. This happened between August 22nd and 25th. It didn't help us necessarily on August 21st, but certainly it's something that we appreciate, and customers get compensated, and it's a great way for us to use our collective resources in the region in the most efficient manner. Next slide, please. This is a very good picture because I'm going to cut to the chase here. We have some history, not all recorded history. We've been doing the Swigert Golf Tournament for 35 years, and according to our historian at OPPD, we've never had a hole-in-one until this year. And so the gentleman that you see here on the picture is Jason Shaben of HF Sinclair, one of our vendors, who showed a hole-in-one. What is the Swigert Golf Tournament? It's an annual golf tournament we've been doing for 35 years. We held it on Wednesday, September 6th. It is named in memory of the late Warren Swigert, who diligently represented OPPD's customers as a member of the OPPD Board of Directors. He was active in many civic and community organizations. He was recognized as a true volunteer and also was an avid golfer. We had 339 business associates, sponsors, and employees that golfed at this event to raise funds. I want to note that all OPPD's employees who participated here, we donated our time and our resources. We took vacation to participate here and donate funds. The event raised an estimated $64,099 through entry fees and sponsorships, which is the highest amount to date that we've ever raised. These funds are used to fund 3 scholarships, one each at, they're $2,000 scholarships, one each at UNO, Creighton, and Bellevue University, and the remainder goes to support OPPD's Energy Assistance Program. It was a lot of fun. Don't ask me how I golfed, because that was pretty embarrassing, but the result was fantastic, and it's all for a good cause. Next slide, please. Our community events, I'm gonna do something a little different. We have some information here to share, but I would like to pass the mic to Director Spurgeon, if that's okay, Chair Williams, for a Labor Day reflection.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Earlier this month, right before Labor Day, my mind was taken back probably 20-some years ago to a community musical in which I had a small role. It was titled Working and was based on a book by Studs Terkel. In the opening number, titled Something to Point to, various persons are pointing to a building and singing out the role they had in its construction and its current functions. They sing, "See that building? I was the one who did the design. I was the one who drafted the plan, every detail and every line." Another voice chimes in, "See that building? I ran the crane that lifted the beams." And another voice, "Look at those bricks. Those bricks are mine." Another, "I'm on the staff. I work as a guard." Still another, "I clean the floors and I clean them good. People don't know my job is hard." And a new voice, "5 days a week I work at a desk. I do the books." And another voice, "I handle the mail. 9 on the dot. I punch my card." And then they all sing, "Everyone should have something to point to, something to be proud of. Look what I did. See what I've done? I did the job. I was the one." Everyone should have something to point to, some way to be tall in the crowd. Proud. As I renewed my acquaintance with this song, in my mind were the people of OPPD. See that generation plant? See that substation? See that transmission line? See that distribution line? And then there are the parts we can't see. The finance division, assuring OPPD's financial health, customer care, public and governmental relations, technology, environmental care, risk management, modeling and planning for the future, maintaining security, and the list just goes on and on. Every meeting I have, I learn more about what goes on in this organization. In every part of OPPD, as some of the song lyrics say, day after day after day after day, people front up to earn their pay. They cast their pleasure aside and put themselves on the line, working through the mundane and boring bits and meeting huge challenges head on, as has been referred to earlier in this meeting. At OPPD, they live a pretty big piece of their life, caring about each other, honoring the community, and serving with passion. From bottom to top and across the organization, the employees of OPPD care about this utility company as if it were their own, because it is. They make it hum, and they assure that it will continue to hum in the future. I am just so proud for you. I hope each person in the organization feels that way about their work, because each person's contribution is so essential. On behalf of the people of OPPD's Subdivision 3, thank you for all you do and for who you are. Thank you for the time.
It's really hard to follow that. Thank you so much. I had a few notes about this, but I think your comments summed it up really well. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next slide, which I think ties back to not only what we work on our machines, on our buildings, but also how we contribute to our community. And on the volunteering side, I would like to highlight the week of August 7th, 7th to 11th, we had the United Way Shine Bright, which is an effort with the United Way of the Midlands to secure hygiene items that and leads to the creation, organization, and distribution of Shine Bright kits for local kindergarten, 6th, and 9th grade students. We had thousands of local students around the metro area are lacking essential hygiene items like soap, shampoo, conditioner, clean clothes, and dental products. And these impacts their health, academics, and confidence. I'm very proud to report that we had hundreds of OPPD volunteers who assembled kits, organized them on pallets, and deliver them to local schools. And this is just one of the many events that we attend. And as I've mentioned before, usually the sign-up sheets fill well before we would like them to. We oftentimes don't have enough room for all the volunteers, which is fantastic. It really speaks to our core values of honoring our community. The last slide is just, again, a sobering reminder not only of the importance of the work we do, but how hazardous and dangerous it could be. This is remembering Michael Toms, who was an electrician and died on July 10 of 1974. He was electrocuted while working on a transformer near Elmwood. Michael was 29 years old at the time of his death and had been with OPPD for only 5 years. He was also a veteran of the U.S. military. He was survived by his parents, grandparents, and his sister. And that, Chair Williams, concludes my President's report.
Great, thanks very much. The last item on our agenda is public comment on other items of district business. Does anyone in the room have a comment? Please come to the center of the room. Thank you.
David Begley, 4611 South 96th Street. With regard to the peak load day, you know, the CEO commented upon the demand response, paying people to turn off or turn down their AC. That's all craziness. I mean, the answer isn't demand, it's supply. I've got a friend of mine who says, you know, when you got this big demand, you can't turn up those wind turbines. That's the problem here. So I got two quotes from Vivek Ramaswamy. The worst religions are the ones that fail to recognize themselves as religions. We have created a new tyranny of the minority. I would submit that many of the directors here are members of the new religion of net zero carbon. Rather than doing your flashy ad campaign, what you should have done is a public opinion poll and say, hey, customers, do you want to pay 10% more for OPPD to achieve net zero carbon? And I think I'd be shocked if 20% of people agree to that. That's the tyranny of the minority. You are not representing your voters and customers. President Barack Obama said, hey, if we go for this capping greenhouse gases, electricity rates are going to necessarily skyrocket. That's undeniably true. And you are headed down that path. So what we've got here, you know, we're saved the planet from burning up in the year 2100, but the plebes, people like me, we're going to have to pay much higher power rates. As I pointed out in the past, there's a direct correlation between higher electricity rates and how much wind and solar you got in the grid. California and Germany right there on that chart. Here's something from a brief filed in federal court. Los Angeles, where my son lives, rates have gone up 40% in 4 years. Boy, wouldn't that be great in Omaha? You know, you last month you passed your fabulous CapEx resolution. Look at these recent public power purchase agreement prices. They're going up. Look at that curve on that line. $2 billion will not be enough. I can tell you that right now. So in this country, we follow the rule of law. I told you last month that you had absolutely no statutory authority.
30 seconds.
Net zero carbon. I want to tell you about my classmate in Creighton, Sandy Doherty. She was a Catholic, or she is a Catholic, district court judge, Catholic doctrine, no death penalty. Judge Doherty was assigned to the 3-judge panel to impose a penalty in the case of State versus Sandoval. Judge Doherty wrote the opinion. death sentence affirmed. And the reason why is she put aside her personal and religious belief and did what she's required to do. I would submit that the directors here, you need to put aside your personal religious beliefs and do your statutory duty for low cost and reliable power. Thank you.
Are there any other comments in the room? Seeing none, are there any comments online?
Mr. Corbin?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, I guess I forgot to say this last time. David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street. Representing the Missouri Valley Group Sierra Club today, who is sponsoring a biking, walking tour, solar tour of the Dundee area on October 7th. It's part of the National Solar Tour. We're the only ones in Nebraska represented there. As you know, the more residential and commercial solar there is, the more that helps your peak load that you talked about earlier. I would hope that OPPD could have some materials to talk about whatever $2,000 incentives you have left, as well as how you might help people access the IRA dollars. On a personal note, regarding the smart thermostat, I have been going back and forth with your customer service people because I've had my smart thermostat for several months, and I've gone through and connected it with Wi-Fi. Supposed to get a $75 rebate and something like $10 a year. That has yet to happen. Just wanted to let you know that has been far from a smooth process, and it still hasn't been solved. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And David, perhaps you couldn't see on the video, but I did see CEO Fernandez taking notes, and I do expect that we'll have some follow-up in response to your specific comments about your specific circumstance. Is there anyone else online who has comments?
Mr. John Pollock?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. John, please go ahead.
Okay. John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. Regarding our recent heat wave, that one was really exceptional. I'd like to provide a little bit of perspective. In my 45 years of monitoring weather around Omaha, that was the strongest heat dome that I have seen in the entire time. And that was by a significant margin. I would overall connect this, the intensity of the pattern to global warming. However, I would note that the pattern it most best resembled was the one that we had in the 1995 heat wave that killed a bunch of people in Chicago. The reason it wasn't hotter this time is that it was later in the season. My estimate is that if we had had this in mid-July rather than late August, the way we did in 1995, it would have been approximately 3 or 4 degrees hotter than it actually was because the sun would have been that much stronger. Going forward, I heard a little bit of safety briefing at the beginning thinking about winter, but we're not there yet. We still need to be thinking about severe weather. We're in a pattern where we're having strong weather systems coming in from the West Coast and weakening as they get to the middle of the country, but they can still set off some fireworks. And we are, in fact, for Saturday in a slight risk of severe weather. That's all hazards, and we're probably looking at another 1 or 2 more weather systems coming in sort of the same way, although the weather models have a hard time with this pattern because the systems are slow moving. Tends to be hard to get a fix on the timing of the systems and exactly how intense they'll be. Later on, of course, we're in the summer to fall transition. We have El Nino going on, but I'll have more to say about that in coming months.
30
The
seconds.
overall picture, thank you. The overall picture for us is that El Nino doesn't give us a lot of extra predictability to our winter weather, unfortunately. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments online?
No other comments.
Okay, thank you all for your comments. And with that, we are adjourned.